have Ben Chin. He's married and is expecting his first child right around election day.
Lewiston has come a long way since I first got my scholarship to attend Bates College here 12 years ago. And my wife Nicole and I are expecting a child in a few weeks, and we really could not imagine raising our child anywhere else. But some things, unfortunately, in Lewiston have gotten worse. My first apartment was on Nichols Street. Now that building is owned by Lewiston's most notorious landlord, Joe Dunn. 3 years ago, I used to run in the neighborhood behind St. Mary's on my way to Morningside Park. When I knocked doors there a few weeks ago, it was barely recognizable. The blight of abandoned, foreclosed, and condemned buildings is spreading, and with it, our reputation gets worse. This is the direct consequence of corporate slumlords, of destroying buildings without plans to replace them, of pushing the problem into the suburbs, of destroying our property tax base, of erasing the value in homes it has taken generations to build.
Just for the record, I've only got 10 seconds left. Mr. Chin, if I hear the word corporate slumlord one more time in the paper or whatnot, I'm going to cringe. Thanks.
With my 10 seconds, I'd just like to define the term corporate slumlord. These are folks that hide behind 29 different shell companies, corporate, and they have dozens of violations at all their properties in the last 5 years. Slumlords. Sorry if you cringe. Lewiston's leaving money on the table. We've been owed $10 million by the state of Maine over the last 4 years because of revenue sharing cuts that the governor passed in order to pay tax breaks for the rich. The hospitals got $500 million paid back because they banged their drum loud enough to get what they were owed. It's time our city do the same. I think we have our expectations set way too low. We're being illegally denied federal Title I money to the tune of $1 million a year that is specifically designed to go to schools with high concentrations of poverty. That's millions more dollars that we've been losing ever since we passed the new modern funding formula. If I'm mayor, I'm not going to be scraping the bottom of the barrel picking favorites of programs.
I'll say it is a fairy tale if you're going to think that you're going to be able to get the money from the state.
Again, I'm a little bit in agreement with Mr. Jensen. I think a lot of Mr. Chin's plan is based on getting money from the state, and that's just a tough nut to swallow.
We got more money for revenue sharing last year, and school funding came in higher than was expected, and you can ask Bill Webster and Ed Barrett to verify that. The way you make sure you don't get more money is by not asking for it.
The only solution I see, and I've fought for it, is welfare reform, and we have to do something that goes with the schools. The schools' budget is killing us.
Promises to lower property taxes are a dime a dozen, so I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell you what I've done. When the governor wanted to eliminate the homestead exemption for people under 65, we fought that, and that's actually an increase. So when you look at your property tax bill and you see a bump in your homestead exemption, that's why. When we found out the circuit breaker was going to be eliminated, we found a way to put that on the income tax form so that more people could access it. And last year we figured out how to leverage $22 million to push that out to people who are most in need of property tax assistance. My grandfather came from China when he was 9 years old, spoke no English, and was only able to make it because his principal took him in to raise him. We need to figure out how to live together as our neighbors. I'm the only candidate, again, that's put forward any kind of plan to make sure that folks can overcome the two biggest barriers to that, which is learning English and entering the workforce. Going back to money left on the table, 2 years ago, Portland won $75,000 in a bipartisan vote out of the Workforce Development Committee for a center that allowed people to get recertifications so their credentials could take from their country into this one. We need to be doing that in Lewiston.
We've got to move on this. I think that this country has got to take a stance on it and make a path to citizenship.
And these people, as far as schooling goes, these people, especially the Somalis, they excel in school. They excel.
I just want to point out something that I think is remarkable and makes me really proud to be up here on the stage with all of these other candidates, which is in that question around creating a diverse, immigrant, integrated community. There was unanimous opinion that that was actually an important, valid thing. And so I think that says something about our city, and it says that if you are someone who is not on that same page, there is no one to vote for this year.
in order to come off that, if you're an addict, you have to have some inner strength. And if you don't have that inner strength, you're not going to. We can send you all the places, all these rehabilitation centers, but it's not going to make too much of a difference. Okay? Yes, I was in law enforcement, so if you ask me which way I favor, I would favor really cracking down on these people and bringing the federal government in here, as we do now, cracking down. And when they get a sentence, they're going away to a federal prison, not a state prison.
Wow, I agree with that. And the hand slaps that they seem to give to drug offenders are amazing because of the overcrowding of jails and whatnot. But I would be very pro on increasing the police force.
A couple of principles I want to lay out here. Addiction is a disease. We jail more people in this country for drug crimes than any country in the world. We've been on this experiment for the past 30 years. It hasn't worked. So anybody who wants to further criminalize, I would ask you to point to the evidence that this actually works. I don't know a single person who doesn't have a friend or family member that's been touched by addiction. And I guess I gotta say, to suggest that people who suffer from this disease lack inner strength is deeply offensive to me. I think that we need to tackle this from a public health perspective. Thank you for the parking question. We don't have a parking policy in Lewiston. We have a patchwork of politically motivated street meters here, 2-hour parking there, parking garages here. In every other city, when you get off the highway, there's a big blue P. And this is something that I've heard from business owners, that there needs to be a series of big blue Ps that direct you. Very few people know that in the parking garages downtown, the first hour is free. Very few people know that what methods of payment are accepted at these. There's a lot that we can do to make this work. I just talked to a business owner the other day. I'm going to run out of time. Very quickly, daycare owner had to create one parking slot for every single customer using the daycare in the whole course of the day, and she almost had to close down her business as a result of this kind of over-regulation on parking. There's a lot we need to do on parking. Thank you all for being here tonight. I think over the course of the evening, I've heard some generic promises around creating jobs and lowering property taxes and attracting business. And I've also heard a few accomplishments, like creating a park or bringing in a call center or establishing some trails. I'm the only candidate that's actually put some real numbers and a real plan down on paper that's out there for you to read, that you can hold me accountable to if I'm elected. And you can agree with the ideas or you can disagree with the ideas, but they're real ideas, it's a real vision. And I gotta say, I don't have it all figured out, and that's why I've talked to over 3,000 people to come up with it. The last thing I wanna say is a question that didn't get asked tonight, and that is, there are only men up on the stage tonight. And when you look at our city staff, there are basically only men in senior positions. The axis of the future of our city depends on the lives of women who are holding families together, who are working minimum wage jobs, who are struggling to stay in their homes long after their husbands have passed. And I'm a guy, I'm not going to claim to be anything besides that. But I do think that there is some serious questions about gender fairness in Lewiston that we do need to address. And I thank you all for your time and for being here tonight.